She thought she'd keep the house. Big mistake. Ever look at your life and wonder how you got here? That's me. 6 years married to Lena, 6 years of love, patience, and blind faith in her never-ending dreams. YouTube, Instagram, NFTs, dropshipping, you name it, she tried it. Each venture cost me thousands. Each ended in failure. Meanwhile, I paid every bill, kept the house running, and never complained. That's what a good husband does, right? Then one afternoon, she texted me out of our marriage. No discussion. Just, I think we should divorce. You don't contribute emotionally. I need a fresh start. At first, I thought it was a joke. Then I got home, and she barely looked up from her phone. When I confronted her, she simply said, "Money isn't everything." 2 weeks later, she started acting smug, like she'd already won. Then I overheard her on the phone, making plans to renovate the house. New couch, white walls, maybe a home, gym. That's when I realized Lena actually thought she was keeping it. But there was just one problem. The house wasn't hers. My name was on the deed, the mortgage, everything. She never contributed a dime. Yet she paraded a realtor through my kitchen, discussing her vision. That's when I spoke up. "You do realize this isn't your house, right?" She laughed. "We built a life here together. Obviously, it's not that simple." "Oh, but it is," I said, smirking. She didn't believe me until she got served an eviction notice. She wanted a fresh start? She got one. Just not in my house. For 6 years, Lena lived rent-free off my hard-earned money. Now, as we divorced, she strutted around like she owned the place. Bryce, her new boy toy, was suddenly everywhere, lounging on my couch, drinking my coffee, acting like he belonged. Lena had the audacity to pretend this was normal, like I was the guest in my own home. Then I overheard her on the phone. "Housewarming party, a fresh start." Oh, Lena, you have no idea what's coming. The next morning, I leaned against the counter as she made coffee. "So, I hear we're having a housewarming party?" She froze, then smiled sweetly. "Yeah, I figured you'd be moved out by then." I set my mug down with a slow smirk. "Lena, you really think you're keeping this house?" For the first time, she faltered. She hadn't checked the facts. She hadn't realized. She had no legal claim. That night, while she was out with Bryce, I changed every lock in the house. The next morning, she struggled with the key, growing more frantic with every failed attempt. Finally, I opened the door. "Problem?" Her eyes blazed. "Why the hell isn't my key working?" "Because I changed the locks." I crossed my arms. "This house isn't yours. You don't live here anymore. You have until the end of the day to get your things and leave." Her face drained of color. "You can't do this. I have rights." I smirked. "Legally? No, you don't." Just then, Bryce pulled up, grinning, until he saw Lena standing outside with her bags. "Wait, you don't live here anymore?" I shrugged. Never did, technically. And just like that, her perfect little fantasy crumbled. Lena thought. She had it all figured out. She imagined herself walking away from our marriage on her terms, with my house, my money, and a brand new life waiting for her. She had convinced herself that she was untouchable, that she could rewrite reality to suit her fantasies. But reality doesn't care about fantasies. The morning after I changed the locks, Lena woke up somewhere that wasn't my house. Where? I didn't know, didn't care, but I knew she hadn't slept well. I imagined her tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together how her perfect little plan had collapsed overnight. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, she came back. She stood outside, staring at the front door like sheer willpower could undo everything. She didn't knock, didn't say anything at first, just stood there waiting for me to change my mind. I took a sip of my coffee, watching her. Finally, I raised an eyebrow. You need something? Her jaw clenched. We need to talk. I took another sip. I think we covered everything yesterday. Lena exhaled sharply. This isn't funny, okay? I need you to be reasonable. Reasonable. That was rich coming from her. I know you're upset, she added. I laughed. Upset? Oh no, I'm actually having a great morning. Her lips thinned. I just think you're being a little dramatic. Dramatic? I set my mug down. Dramatic is sending a divorce text and expecting me to roll over like an obedient dog. Dramatic is parading Bryce around my house like you'd already won. Dramatic is planning a housewarming party for a house you don't even own. She blinked. Because it is. No, I said, tilting my head. It really isn't. Panic flickered in her eyes, but she forced a scoff. You seriously expect me to just walk away with nothing? Yes. Silence. Her face paled. What? She whispered. I leaned in. Lena, do you know what happens when someone gets divorced without contributing a single cent to the house? When there are no shared assets, no joint accounts, no legal claim to anything? She swallowed. I smiled. They leave with exactly what they came with. She parted her lips like she wanted to argue, but for the first time, she understood. I wasn't playing a game. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. For 6 years, she had lived off me, spent my money, chased failed dreams with zero accountability. And now, she was finally going to experience what it was like to be on her own. She tried to backpedal, to change the tone. I saw it happen in real time. The smugness disappeared. The arrogance melted. And what was left? Panic. Okay, look. She forced out a laugh. Things got messy, but we don't have to do this like enemies, right? I mean, we were married. I raised an eyebrow. You ended it over text. She faltered. Yeah, but I didn't think you'd actually... Actually what? I cut her off. Make you face the consequences of your choices? She bristled. It's not that simple. Oh, it really is. For a second, just a second, her mask cracked, and I saw something real underneath it. Fear. She had been so sure I would fold. That I would be weak, like I always had been. But I wasn't. And now she had nowhere to go. Bryce, her so-called savior, not here, nowhere to be found. I decided to twist the knife. Where's Bryce? She stiffened. He's busy. Busy. That was a nice way of saying he was already regretting his decision. Let me guess, I said. He thought you had a house, thought you had your life together. Her jaw clenched. Yeah, I nodded. That's what I thought. She had bet everything on Bryce picking up where I left off. But now, she was just another problem he didn't sign up for. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. She took a deep breath, her mind racing for an angle, a last-ditch attempt to save herself. And then she played her final card. The least you could do is help me get back on my feet. I stared at her. Help you? Yes, she said quickly, sensing an opening. I mean, come on. We were together for 6 years. You can't expect me to just start over from nothing. That's exactly what I expect. Her mouth opened, but I wasn't done. Because you know what, Lena? That's what you expected me to do. You texted me about a divorce and assumed I would just leave. You had an entire new life planned while I was supposed to pack my bags and disappear. And now that it's you in that position... I gave her a slow, mocking smile. Suddenly, it's unfair. Her breathing picked up. Because she knew there was no way out. I'll give you until the end of the day to get the rest of your things. Her eyes filled with panic. And then what? I shrugged. Then, you figure it out. You're going to regret this, she hissed. I grinned. No, I really won't. And with that, I turned and shut the door in her face. Lena had spent 6 years living in a fantasy. Now, She was finally living in reality. And she hated it.